Dallas Fort Worth. Here comes Schiller.
Ooh.
Gets around Lodge.
Oh,
Great
boy.
ball for Rodrigo. Rodrigo into the area, the turn, the shot, and the score! Rodrigo, the finish after Daniel Schiller.
Creatures of my dreams raise up and dance with me. Now and forever, I'm
Overtime, Rodrigo comes away with it, looks to switch fields to Schiller.
Just a bit of a miss hit. Tired legs, you can see him affecting these guys now on
Wa-
both sides of the field.
Wallach out across for Rodrigo. Rodrigo looking to switch, gets it across, looking for Schiller. Schiller winds a shot, and
He
Howell
scores!
Kobe Howell from Danny Schiller on the switch by Rodrigo. And a 103rd minute goal sends the Bears to a 1-0 victory.
Though well-renowned for its academics, Brown Athletics has managed to boast students that excel both off and on the field. One of the most successful sports programs at the school, and eventually in the nation, is that of the men's soccer team. According to Martha Mitchell's Encyclopedia Brunonia, soccer made its first appearance at Brown in 1912 when the athletic board voted to purchase a soccer ball and to erect goalposts on Lincoln Field. The first attempt at a soccer scrimmage was held on April 25th, but it was too late in the season to organize a team. At the time, the main interest in soccer was providing recreation and suitable exercise for the football team. Brown soccer first attained its varsity status under coach Samuel Fletcher in 1926, a part-time coach as many of the early head men were. Likewise, the members of the team were generally students who came to the school for academics first and were not recruited for soccer. This remained the case until the 1960s. Because of this, the early seasons were rather unsuccessful, as is so often the case for a new program. But the team began a slow turnaround and finally posted its first winning season in 1933. Thus began a string of 6 highly successful seasons. Perhaps the best of the early Brown teams were Fletcher's squads of 1936, when the team went 7-0-3, and 1937, when the team achieved a school record in wins at the time, going 8-1-2. Led by Brown Hall of Famers William Marginson, class of 1937, and Walter Jackson, class of 1939, both of these teams were New England Intercollegiate Soccer Association champions. Fletcher continued coaching until 1945, a span of 20 years, and at the end of his reign, he led the team to a 6-1 record in his final season. He will be remembered for his instrumental role in bringing a non-existent program into prominence, and his legacy has been forever cemented at Brown. Following the departure of Fletcher, Joe Kennaway took over as coach, holding the position for 14 years. One of the most memorable moments in his time as coach was the 1950 Stadium Day,
In 1950, Princeton made its first visit to Providence since 1933. It was Stadium Day, Brown Field's 25th anniversary. Familiar faces Chet Worthington and Bill Gilbane watched the morning soccer game on Aldrich Field.
Ultimately, Princeton won 3-2, but the game was a huge step for Brown and the Ivy League. Kennaway finished his coaching career at Brown in 1959, with his most outstanding team being that of 1956. The team posted a 7-3 record and was highlighted by Brown's first ever All-Ivy selection, Bruce Yutter. This is Yutter in his Brown Athletics Hall of Fame acceptance speech.
Our coach was a part-time coach. He worked in buildings and grounds. Joe Kennaway. He's been the United Kingdom goalie 4 out of the 9 years he played. And so, but he knew how to coach and he knew the game. And so we had a real good group come on behind us and did real well. The luckiest thing that ever happened in my life was going to Brown. The second luckiest thing, but maybe it was the most luckiest, was meeting the cute blonde sitting over there, who was in my class, Marilyn Pratt. Come on, Marilyn, stand up.
It was not until the 1960s, however, that Brown became a consistent powerhouse in New England soccer. Cliff Stevenson, the man who the current home field of the Bears is named after, took the helm in 1960 and immediately brought in a new era to men's soccer. At the time, recruiting athletes had not been an important part of college soccer, but Cliff soon began the trend and went out to find the best. Brown thrived in the 1960s, winning the Ivy League championship 6 consecutive years, from 1963 to 1968. The 1968 team also reached the NCAA semifinals. During the 60s, 11 players were selected as first-team All-Ivy members, and 7 were All-Americans. In a letter Cliff Stevenson wrote for a 2017 reunion for the teams of the 1970s, he mentioned the progress the team made in the 1960s. George Barrett, from the class of 1977, read this letter.
You have to realize how important your teams and the prior 60s teams were for putting soccer on the mat at Brown. Lights, scoreboard, stands, fence are all a fascinating story. In 1960, we were 1-9. 1961, 6-5. 1962, 5-5-1. And then in 1963, we were 11-2-1 and won the league.
The lights, scoreboard, and stands Stevenson refers to in his letter were absent when he first began coaching. But thanks to his dedication and passion, Stevenson made drastic improvements.
Brown had just bought Aldrich Dexter Field, which would put my sports near the campus. What a field. Worst field in the country. Brown did not have it landscaped properly, and when it rained, there was a stream running across the field. For 2 years, we picked up stones at every practice, buckets full. Our locker room was in the basement of a former mental institution. It's appropriate. And we had our own equipment room. The uniforms were ancient. We won 1 game the first year, and after the Yale game, their coach said, "Do you know, Cliff, we've beaten Brown 13 years in a row." Why say that? So the year before I arrived, Brown had to recruit a few students to have the freshmen play a game. There were no lights, so I had to bring 3 or 4 cars down to the field and turn on the headlights so we could finish our practices. Brown entered the Ivy League in 1956, which was designed and run by Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. Exactly. When I arrived, Brown only had full-time coaches in football, basketball, hockey, track, and me for soccer and lacrosse. Soccer previously played out of Marple Gym near the football stadium.
David Chichester, from the class of 1967, remembers the preseason living situation.
During the preseason, sleeping on the 3rd floor of the now long-gone Marvel Gymnasium, all of us in one large room, sharing one bathroom, multiple stalls though. And also during preseason, one season we stayed on the concourse of Meehan Auditorium, the ice rink.
Despite the limitations Brown dealt with, they still found tremendous success. One of the most noteworthy games of the 1960s was Brown versus Penn in 1963. It was homecoming, and Brown pulled off a 3-0 win. Unfortunately, the only film remaining of the game lacks the goals, but it does include many other spectacular individual efforts. Ben Brewster, class of 1969, was the player who went on to have the most successful professional career from the 60s. Brewster played 3 years of professional soccer in the NASL and 4 years in the ASL. He also played 2 games for the U.S. national team in 1973 and scored 1 goal. He then served as head coach at Boston College for 12 years and was named the New England Coach of the Year in 1980. The 1970s brought Brown's true prominence to the national stage. The decade was highlighted by the 1973, 75, and 77 teams that all reached the Final Four. To hear it in Cliff's words,
In 1970, you all started to arrive, and what a run you had. Keep in mind that many things contributed to these years. Dedicated alumni to help the finances and recruiting, top-notch assistant coaches, excellent players, top managers, excellent backup players, enthusiastic crowds, and as many as 4,000 strong. Recruiting teams on squad who helped getting you to Brown, and helpful faculty and athletic staff. From 1972 to 1978, I'll do this slowly, you won 71 games against some pretty darn good teams. You won 4 straight Ivy titles and made the NCAA tournament every year. We had so many excellent players, it'd be very hard to mention names. You were all the best. I also loved seeing the JVs develop. By the way, Yale did not beat us again for 16 years. God love them.
In 1973, a Final Four season, Brown topped Hartwick 1-0 in the quarterfinals to advance to the semis. But the team's most memorable win might have been its 2-1 regional victory against in-state rival URI, in which John Drew scored the winner with just 28 seconds remaining. (1974) was the final year freshmen were required to play on the freshman squad rather than the varsity team, and for good reason too. Memorable performances by legend Fred Pereira in freshman versus varsity games proved that the youngsters needed to be on the varsity team. Still, the varsity team earned an NCAA berth as was expected and highlighted their season with an 18-1 victory against Boston University. The 1975 team was another one for the history books, as it reached the Final Four, its quarterfinal win coming against Cornell, and an incredible 3-0 victory highlighted here. Though all the teams in the 1970s were hugely successful, possibly the biggest win in Brown's history came during the 1977 season. In the national quarterfinals, Brown was to face Clemson, the preseason national consensus #1 team. Just the season before, Clemson had set the record for the most playoff goals ever in a season, with 17. Ray Martin, class of 1978, recalls a moment of inspiration at the beginning of the season, followed by his recount of the quarterfinal game.
So now on to the 77 team. As we all remember, it was not uncommon for Cliff to round us up at practice and deliver a short or not so short monologue on whatever was on his mind on that particular day. So on our first day of practice, Cliff went out of his way to tell us that the NCAA coaches meeting was going to be in San Francisco, where the Final Four was going to be held, and that he's going to California, and it's up to us to decide, do we want to join him in California? So down 1-0 at halftime, the team was pretty loose, embarrassingly so perhaps, but we were playing well, and we understood clearly we had nothing to lose, so we thought, well, why the hell don't we win this game? Van Beek had an assist that was better than his goal. He put a brilliant crossover to Paul. That was a beautiful ball, and Paul rocketed into the corner. We're tied up, and then he picked up a loose ball and banged it home, and we were ahead. And then Clemson realized, uh-oh, we better get serious. So I think there was about 15 minutes to go. Does that sound right? But the problem for Clemson, with about 8 minutes to go, they came on a counterattack, and a guy volleyed a ball that should have been the tying goal, and Teddy just guessed right and made an unbelievable save, and it spooked them. Just you could tell they were done. They just realized, hey, this game's over. It's about 8 minutes to go, and I think from that point on we had the ball for the most part, and see you later. That was it. Yeah.
Stevenson also had some memories about the game, which Barrett recounts in the letter.
It was important that we did not give up more than one goal in the first half, and that's what we did. They played a zone defense, so in the first half, we played, I'm just reading, a balanced setup. But in the second half, we overloaded the right side. Oh my goodness. But in the second half, we overloaded the right side, and the left half moving to the right side and moving more forward. Clemson never adjusted. And they went on to score 2 goals to win. I told Joe Castro, when coaches and players around the country read the 2-1 score, they must think it's a misprint.
These men, who dominated the 70s, weren't just great at Brown. Several of them were some of the greatest players in the country. A few went on to play pro, with 4 in particular having successful careers after college. Ray Schneckgock, the class of 1978, played 1 season in the NASL with the Philadelphia Fury before playing both indoor and outdoor soccer leagues simultaneously. He played 4 seasons in the ASL and 3 seasons in the MISL. Dave Flashen, from the class of 1976, was a first-round selection in the NASL draft by the Chicago Sting. As a goalkeeper, he appeared in 9 games over the course of his 2-year career. Fred Pereira of the 1977 class holds most of the offensive records at Brown. In 1974, he scored the most goals in a season with 25, and he has the record for the most goals in a career with 47. In 1975, he set the record for assists in a season with 14, and has the career record as well, with 30. Because of the rule where freshmen could not join the varsity squad, his career statistics come from just 3 seasons. Pereira was selected 2nd overall in the 1977 NASL draft by the Fort Lauderdale Strikers. He played 3 seasons in the NASL and 1 in the MISL, before playing a single season in the NASI Indoor League. Pereira played for the U.S. national team 6 times, highlighted by a pair of goals. He also went on to put together an accomplished referee career in New England. Steve Ralbowski, from the class of 1976, was selected 1st overall in the 1976 NASL draft and the ASL draft. He was the 1975 Hermann Trophy winner, an honor bestowed on the best college player in the country, and is the only #1 draft selection in Brown's history. He played in 6 NASL outdoor seasons with 3 different clubs, 2 ASL seasons, and 1 year in the USISL. He played at least 20 games 4 times during his career and also played 2 indoor seasons. Balbowski also played 15 games for the U.S. national team over 3 years, from 1976 to 1978, meaning that at times 2 of the 11 men on the field for the U.S. were Brown graduates.
To finish up, picture the soccer we had back in the 1960s and what we have now. All of this is because of players in the 60s and you in the 70s. We also must give credit to the reserves, JVs, assistant coaches, managers, student fans, alumni money, recruiting, athletic department, cooperation trainers, and even the 8 teams in my junior soccer league cheering you on. The presidents, deans, and so many faculty really admired you and your accomplishments. Muriel and I love you all. Best to all of you, Coach Stevenson.
Stevenson continued to coach through the 80s, despite the decade being known as the dark ages of U.S. soccer. Professional leagues died out and sports interest turned elsewhere. Brown didn't win an Ivy League title in the 80s, but in 1983 the team finished with an impressive 10-4-1 record overall and a 5-2 record in the Ivies, good for second place. The team was nationally ranked as high as 10th place, and the season was highlighted by a 5-1 win against Princeton. 2 tough but memorable losses from the season were against UConn, one of the best teams in the country, and Dartmouth. Brown lost a thrilling 3-1 contest in front of several thousand fans at home to UConn, and fell to Dartmouth 3-1, with the game being played in a snowstorm. Fred Coons, a 1984 graduate, recalls some of the most memorable moments with Cliff Stevenson in the 1980s.
It was my senior year, and we were on the freshman practice field behind the varsity field. And Cliff thought it was a good idea to teach the defenders, or see how good the defenders could be keeping the ball out of the net without using their hands. So actually not a bad idea, but what Cliff had we defenders do is stand in the goal, and then he had all the players line up at the top of the 18 and shoot balls at us all at the same time. Well, I remember there was one particular ball that hit me in a rather unfortunate part of my body. A couple other things about Cliff now on the road is that Cliff would give us meal money, and it seemed invariably we'd always go to the Ponderosa to spend our meal money because Cliff liked the steak there, and they also had the buffet, so you could, for $5 you could really go to town there. And I think that not only speaks to what the pricing was back then, but maybe the quality of the food. Finally, and I don't know if this is true or not, but Cliff actually said it was true, but apparently there was a road trip. This is before I was on the team, but there was a road trip, and maybe it was at the end of the year. So it was a long drive back, maybe from Dartmouth or Columbia, and some of the players had made some pot brownies, and they were in the back of the bus eating the brownies, and they started giggling and laughing, and Cliff thought that sounded like fun, so he went back there and asked them what was so funny, and they said nothing. And then Cliff demanded that, well, hey, give me some brownies, I'm hungry too. And as much as they tried not to, Cliff got his hands on the brownies and ate a few brownies. And apparently when we got back to Providence, he got in his car and drove home, and woke up or whatever later that day or the next day, and has no memory of how he was able to get home after eating the pot brownies.
In 1984, the team opened their season with an 11-0 victory against Bryant. Hunter Stern, a graduate of the 1984 class, went on to play professionally. Unfortunately, his career was cut short by the disbandment of professional soccer in the U.S. Still, he played goalkeeper for the San Jose Earthquakes of the Western Soccer Alliance in 1985, 86, and 88. He then went on to play 3 seasons in the USISL with the North Bay Breakers in 1995 and the California Jaguars in 1996 and 97. His career included 2 championship seasons in 1985 with the Earthquakes and 1996 with the Jaguars. In 1990, Cliff Stevenson retired after 31 years at the helm. He won 10 Ivy League championships, 7 New England crowns, and reached 4 Final Fours. What is often forgotten is that Stevenson actually also coached the Brown lacrosse team for 20 years. In his time there, the team reached 3 NCAA tournaments and went 170-95. In 2010, Stevenson received a Coach Jeffrey Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Soccer Coaches Athletic Association. Following the departure of Stevenson, Trevor Adair took over as head coach. Along with the resurgence of soccer on a national stage, Brown returned to prominence, and in 1994, Adair's final year as head coach, the team earned its first NCAA playoff berth since 1978, capturing the Ivy League title and advancing to the NCAA quarterfinals. Along the way, Brown defeated number 1 ranked Boston University in the second round of the NCAA playoffs. In 1995, the success continued under new head coach Mike Noonan, as the Bears made their second consecutive NCAA quarterfinal appearance, again capturing the Ivy League title. Brown returned to the NCAA tournament in 1997, falling in the last minutes to defending national champions St. John's. In 1998, the Bears won their 4th Ivy title in 5 years and became the first Brown team to go undefeated in the Ivy League since 1976. In the NCAA tournament, Brown faced a familiar foe in St. John's, falling 1-0 in double overtime. In 1999, Brown received an at-large bid into the NCAA tournament after finishing second in the Ivy League. The Bears defeated Rhode Island 2-1 in overtime at Stevenson Field for their first opening round NCAA victory since 1995. Brown advanced to the second round, but fell to host Virginia 3-1. A number of Brown players turned pro from the 90s, with Hans Wittenson from the class of 1999 being drafted by the Dallas Burn of the MLS. Chris Fox, a 1996 graduate, was drafted by New York Fever and played half of the 96 season in New York, before finishing the season with the Atlanta Ruckus. He then played 9 seasons with the Richmond Kickers from 1997 to 2005. Gary Hughes, class of 1996, was the 1995 Ivy League Player of the Year and went on to play for several teams over the span of 6 years in the USISL and the Canadian National Soccer League. Darren Eales, from the class of 1995, set several records while at Brown. He tied Fred Pereira for the most consecutive games scoring, with 9, and then set the record for the most consecutive games with a point, notching the stats card in 12 straight games. He played for the Hampton Roads of the A-League, where he was the leading goal scorer in 1995, and also played for the Hershey Bears. He then went on to a management career, where he was director of West Bromwich Albion, director of football administration at Tottenham Hotspur, and now serves as the president of Atlanta United. Greg Lalas, class of 1994, played for the New England Revolution, the Tampa Bay Mutiny, and the Worcester Wildfire of the A-League. He then went on to be the color commentator of the New England Revolution's televised broadcast, followed by a position as an editor-in-chief for MLSsoccer.com. Brown continued its success in the 2000s, winning the Ivy League 5 times in the decade. The 2000 team posted a flawless 7-0 record in the Ivies and advanced to the NCAA quarterfinals before dropping a 1-0 decision to the eventual national champions UConn. The following year in 2001, the Bears captured a share of the title with a 5-1-1 league record. It was the Bears' 4th league win in the last 5 years, and the 6th in the last 8. 2002 proved to be one of the toughest seasons for the Bears in over a decade. Plagued by injuries, Brown finished with a 5-8-4 record. Adam Crew, class of 2004, was on his way to a record-breaking season before an injury took him down for the remainder of the year. Crew had recorded 10 goals and 2 assists in just 8 games. Brown won the Ivy League again in 2003, as they went from a 7th place finish to a 1st place finish, and booked its 20th appearance in the NCAA tournament. Noonan's team stayed in the national rankings throughout the season and went undefeated in Ivy League play with a 6-0-1 record. Both Adam Crew and Jeff Lorenowitz of 2005 earned All-American honors. In 2004, Brown battled to a 2nd place finish in the Ivy League standings, finishing the year with an 8-7-2 overall record. The team faced a total of 8 opponents that were nationally ranked at some point during the season. In 2005, the Bears returned to the top of the Ivy standings, earning a share of their 8th title in the last 12 years and advanced to the 2nd round of the NCAA tournament. Brown finished the 2006 season with an 11-5-3 record and took 3rd in the Ivy League. The team received an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament and lost to Duke in the 2nd round. The Bears had a tremendous 2007 season, defeating number 5 ranked Santa Clara in their season opener during the Adidas Brown Classic. David Walls, class of 2009, remembers a big win from the season.
So I think probably my first and my last win at Brown are probably the two games that really stand out. My first game was as a freshman. We played Santa Clara at Stevenson Field on Friday night under the lights. It was the first weekend of school. I think they were currently ranked, I think, number 5 in the country at the time, and we went into the game. You know, it was my first game, and I think there was a lot of people didn't really expect us to win, and I think a lot of the team, you know, were just sort of hoping to put in a good performance. We actually went 1-0 down in the first half, and then we responded in the second half. I remember Dylan Sheehan scored an equaliser header from really good cross actually. I think it was me who got the assist. Really good. I'm sure there's some DVDs that you'll see of that.
Bruno claimed the Ivy League championship with an unblemished 7-0 record and went on to make its 23rd NCAA appearance when hosting Old Dominion in Stevenson Field in the second round. Brown lost 2-1 in double overtime and finished the season 15-2-1. They reached the NCAA tournament again in 2009, but fell in the second round 2-0 to UNC, who advanced to the semifinals of the College Cup. Numerous players from the decade went on to play professionally, with Jeff Larentowicz and Corey Gibbs probably having the most illustrious careers. Larentowicz was drafted by the New England Revolution in the 2005 MLS Supplemental Draft. He played 5 seasons with the Revs before moving to the Colorado Rapids for 3 seasons. He went on to play for the Chicago Fire and the LA Galaxy before joining Atlanta United, where he currently serves as captain. He won the 2018 MLS Championship with Atlanta and is also the career minutes leader of the MLS.
Back for Julian Gressel. Puts one in the middle! Second goal, lets its way.
Gibbs joined the U.S. national team in 2003 and signed a contract with the Dallas Burn of the MLS in February of 2004, after 3 years with St. Pauli of the Regional Bundesliga. After years of injury, he returned to the MLS and played for the Colorado Rapids in 2008 and 2009. He then played 1 season in New England with the Revolution in 2010, before finishing his career playing 2 seasons with the Chicago Fire. Mike Noonan left Brown after the 2009 season, exiting with a final record of 160, 77, and 31. Patrick Laughlin became the Bears' 6th head coach in 2010 and immediately brought Brown to the NCAA tournament.
My name's Pat Laughlin. I've been the coach for Brown University men's soccer, the head coach since 2010, and I was an assistant here in the 2009 season, and I played my college soccer at the University of Maine.
In just his first season, Laughlin guided the Bears to a 14-4-4 record, while going undefeated at Stevenson Field with a 9-0-3 record. Brown made his 25th appearance in the NCAA tournament, as well as its first trip to the round of 16 since 2000, with a home victory over Boston College and a 7-6 penalty kick shootout win in Stores against UConn.
The last game I actually won as a Brown player, and this was away at UConn in the second round of the NCAAs. We went there. They were a very, very good team. I think that year they were ranked number 5 or number 6 in the tournament. They were just very strong, very direct. We went at the end of a season and we were definitely underdogs. You know, nobody really fancied us, and we ended up winning on penalties. It was a battle. We put in a great performance. We were very well organised. We defended well. You know, I think most people would say they probably had better players. You know, they were individually much better than we were, but we just showed that Brown resilience. We were scrappy. We cleared balls off the line. We won our headers. We won 50-50s. And at the end, they just physically could not match us. You know, either from a fitness or strength point of view, and we ended up winning on penalties. And you know, that was a great feeling, because I think it was one of those moments where we'd done something as a team, and collectively we'd overcome a lot of adversity, and we'd done something that nobody expected we could do. But I think deep down we all believed that we could go there and get a result, and that was a fantastic day. It was a fantastic afternoon, and I think we were all very proud of our efforts, because that was the first time we got to the Sweet 16 in my time at Brown.
7 Bears earned all Ivy honors, and 1 was invited to the MLS Player Combine. In 2011, Brown returned to the top of the Ivies, winning the league and finishing the season with a 12-5-3 record. In the tournament, Brown topped Fairfield 3-2 and St. John's 1-0, before falling to St. Mary's 3-2.
My best on-field memory, though, was my freshman year. We played Fairfield University in the first round of the tournament. It was the season 2011.
I think when we played Fairfield my junior year in the NCAA tournament, we were down 2-0 at halftime, and we were playing like crap, and the team was really down on ourselves. And at halftime, Coach Sam Groves gave a speech that I think really kind of epitomized how close our team and our coaching staff was, and how we really came together to battle back and win 3-2 and move on to the next round.
We were down like 2-0. I want to say there was like 30 minutes or something left. Somehow we were able to get a goal. I don't remember exactly what the goal was, but it kind of brought some life back into us. It was 2-1. But in the span of like 2 minutes, we had some passing play up the left side, because we had Dylan Remick, who just recently retired, but was a fantastic player for us and had a good career at Seattle and Houston. I think he had some combination play with Sean Rose at the time, who was a senior, and then Austin Mandel was also a senior. I want to say had passed it back to Sean, and somehow they slipped in a goal to make it 2-2 in the span of like 2 minutes. I want to say there was less than 30 minutes left too. But the moment I remember the most is a corner, about like 15 or 10 minutes left, where the ball, a guy made a near post run, the ball was crossed over. Somehow they headed it out, but Aiden Leonard is a year above me. He just found a left foot cracker, banged it into the bottom right post and the bottom right side of the net, and then like pandemonium. Everyone just ran to the sideline. There's pictures of it on some of the Brown Bears website when Dylan Remick is jumping on top of a pile, and you see Sam Kernslosh and Big Time running from the goal. It's really such a strong moment, and afterwards people stormed the field, and that was really one of the last games. Now that I think about it, that is the last game that Brown men's soccer won on the old grass field, because the next home game we lost, and then my sophomore year the field was turned to turf.
In 2013, Brown headed to the tournament again, falling the second round to Maryland 2-1 and closing the season with a 13-3-3 record. Several players from these seasons went on to play professionally. John Okafor, from the class of 2011, was drafted by Chivas USA in the third round of the 2011 MLS draft. He went on to play 1 season in the Finnish Premier League, before returning to the States to play for Arizona United of the USL in 2014 and the Atlanta Silverbacks of the NASL in 2015.
Hi, my name is Dylan Remick. I graduated from Brown in 2013, originally from Chicago, Illinois. For Brown men's soccer, I played left back, and I just recently retired from a career playing soccer in Major League Soccer, and I'm going to head to business school in the fall.
Dylan Remick, a 2013 graduate, was drafted by the Seattle Sounders in the second round of the 2013 MLS draft and played 4 seasons with the team, helping them win the MLS title in 2016. He then signed with the Houston Dynamo in 2017.
No pressure on Alex. He's going to get it into the box. Henderson! What a spectacular goal! You see the run there from Remick. Setting in the free kick again, looking for Anibaba deep and falls in front. The shot is in! It's Dylan Remick, the man whose slip allowed a spray and a score, to former Seattle Sounder, giving Houston the advantage on the away goals tiebreaker.
Tommy McNamara, from the class of 2013, was drafted by Chivas USA in the second round of the 2014 MLS Draft. He then joined NYCFC in 2015 and played with the club until signing with the Houston Dynamo this year. It is now 2019, and Brown holds the Ivy League record with 21 Ivy League championships and 27 NCAA tournament appearances. Coming in 2020, Brown will have a new stadium, an immeasurable improvement from the once rocky fields of the Cliff Stevenson era.
A facility dedicated to the lacrosse and soccer student-athlete experience will be completed in 2020. The 20,000 square foot Center for Lacrosse and Soccer at Stevenson-Pinsence Field will be dedicated to the teaching, coaching, and mentoring of lacrosse and soccer student-athletes. The spectator experience will also be enhanced with a new grandstand and concourse and will provide fans a modern-day game experience. We now look to further participation and enthusiasm from the Brown community as we aim to raise over $20 million over the next year to build this transformative space.
The lacrosse and soccer programs at Brown have long, storied traditions, great players, great student athletes, outstanding coaches, and it's recognized by the university at the highest levels. And President Paxson is a fan of those sports, and she attends those games. And a facility like this is going to ensure that we will continue to win in those sports.
Having a facility that these alums can be proud of, I think, is huge for them and huge for all of us that are currently here and for the next group of people that'll follow us. But it comes from the past. It comes from all the success and all the hard work that the former players, the former coaches, the former staff put in. So it's really exciting that we can have a home stadium and a great home facility.
Brown men's soccer has now existed as a program for nearly 100 years. But what connects a player from the 1970s with a player from the 80s or a current player? How are the players who played under Coach Stevenson anything like the players that play under Coach Laughlin? It's the memories they make during their 4 years on and off the field, and the family you become a part of when you join Brown men's soccer.
For the students, what I will tell you is these are friendships you're going to have for life. And these are relationships and stories that you're going to have forever, and you're going to look back on this time and say, God, this was the best time of my life.
But if it wasn't of Cliff, I would not be here, and I would not meet all of you guys. And so I thank him for really put a lot of time to recruit me and to get me to Brown. And I enjoyed like every minute of it, you know. Because to me, the Brown is probably the best university in the United States.
The luckiest thing that ever happened in my life was going to Brown.
And sure, there are lots of funny stories about Cliff, and there are a lot of funny stories about the kind of road trips we took and the relationships and the things we did when we had games. But it was about the fact that people were willing to give back to the program for all these years. And we're all here today because people are willing to give back. I want to thank, of course, Teddy and my brother Jay, who followed in my footsteps 2 years later to come to Brown. And all the work they did pulling together this reunion. And of course, Dave Flashin, who is another goalkeeper, who has driven home that notion of giving back to the university, giving back to the community.
The second thing that I would like to say to the young guys, on maybe a more or less serious note, I remember sitting with Teddy on the bench, did too much of that, but watching the alumni come back and play, and thinking to ourselves, we are never going to get that old. So your coach told you that we used to be you, but someday you are going to be us. And just consider that it's a possibility that you're going to be old and broken down like us someday. So God bless you all. Thank you.
But that was the only person I knew on campus. But then I met all these wonderful people that were part of the soccer program and became my family for the 4 years on campus and helped me become an adult while I was here on campus.
what makes Brown unique is the players, the guys that come here, and to have them and see, because they're so talented in so many different ways, but they still have the same desire, even a bigger desire than other places I've been, to be successful on the field. There's this core belief that we can beat anyone, and we're outstanding players, and we're going to put ourselves out there all the way, which is great. And then also all the other abilities that the guys have away from the field, and to see them develop and grow all their talents, it's pretty awesome.
And it was clear that the teammates, put in the individual work, and collectively they were a strong group of guys.
So I think the athletic and the academic experiences at Brown carried me forward for the rest of my life.
I'm Jackson Goebel. I'm a junior, graduated in 2020, left back from Houston, Texas.
Greetings. My name is David Chichester, aka Chai. I graduated in 1967, grew up on Long Island in Baldwin, Long Island, and I was the goalkeeper in the 1965 and 66 seasons, co-captain in 66, and spent my career as a business person, CFO for several years as Chief Financial Officer, and on several boards of directors, both corporate and not-for-profit. I graduated in 67 and entered the United States Navy, spent 3.5 years in the Navy, and half of that time was spent in the Gulf of Tonkin and along the coast of South Vietnam during the Vietnam War. From there, went to graduate school at Harvard Business School, and nearly 50 years later, still doing some business, board work, and it's been a rewarding career, and most importantly, for me, was raising a family and having the love that comes from it. Thank you very much.
My name is Alex Marks. I graduated from Brown University in the class of 2015. From Los Angeles, California, roughly, or just a bit north of Los Angeles, California. My position on the field, I was right back during my time there, and my current job, I am currently a third-year medical student at UCSF, University of California, San Francisco, and I'll be applying into orthopedic surgery after my graduation in 2020, so I'm coming on up.
Hi, I'm James Swanley. In the class of 2022. I'm a goalkeeper from Newton, Massachusetts.
My name is Zach Anderson. I'm from Granite Bay, California. I'm graduating in 2020, and I play the 6 or holding mid.
So my name is Nate Pomeroy. I graduated in 2017. I'm from Groton, Massachusetts, and I play forward at Brown. Currently, I'm in New York City, and I'm working at Yext, which is a technology company specializing in digital knowledge management. And I'm working in an operational role there, as well as my buddy Josh Butler.
Hey guys, my name's Christian Rodriguez. I'm class of 2017 from Brown and Brown Men's Soccer. My hometown is New York, New York. My position on the field was outside back, outside mid, and currently, since I graduated from Brown, I work as an associate at EY Parthenon. We're a consulting firm across the U.S., and I'm currently based in New York. I do a lot of private equity diligence projects as well as focus in the education K-12 sector.
Hey, I'm Sam Kernenschloss from Arlington, Virginia, graduated class of 2013. I played goalkeeper, and I currently work, I'm a manager at a company called Bird.
My name is Jack Gorab. I graduated in 2016. Hometown is Newport Beach, California. Position on the field, primarily a midi, center mid, attacking mid, winger. Played some outside back, kind of slotted everywhere, but center back and goalie. Current job, I currently work as an associate at a venture capital firm in New York. We essentially kind of grow and invest in really early stage tech companies.
This is David Walls from class of 2011. I graduated in economics. I am originally from Leeds, England, and I'm currently living in London, England. I currently work for a company called Reckitt Benckiser, who are a sort of FTSE 100 large consumer goods company. I think the brands you'll be most familiar with in the US is we have Mucinex, we have Airborne, we have Enfamil.
Hi, my name is Fred Coons. I'm class of 1984. I played soccer at Brown, and I currently live in Columbus, Ohio, or more specifically Upper Arlington, Ohio, but I was born in Lincoln, Massachusetts. I played left outside back when I was at Brown. I currently work kind of generally in terms of industry. I've worked mostly in sports and entertainment, and I've worked in real estate and sports and entertainment and a couple other capacities. In large part due to my playing sports at Brown. That's kind of what instilled that interest in me. I also studied economics while at Brown, so I knew I wanted to go into business in some capacity. So kind of got lucky and was able to kind of marry my two interests together.
I picked Brown because they're one of the most elite schools in the world, and they have an excellent Division I soccer program. And when I went on campus, I really clicked with all the current guys.
So I think a combination of academics and athletics really brought me to the program.
Why did I choose Brown? So from all the way from Houston, there's not many D1 teams around there, so I always knew I'd kind of have to go far away. Came up over by the East Coast and saw Brown, saw some other schools based off location, the education, and coaching staff. Pick Brown.
My interest in Brown evolved when I was younger because one of my cousins went to Brown in the late 50s, got me interested, and then I was recruited for basketball and soccer.
I came to Brown to kind of see how, I like to say, to see how the sausage was made. I came here to work for Mike Noonan, and Mike was extremely successful, and I had competed against him both as a player and a coach, and I wanted to see how he did it and have an opportunity to learn from him, and I was presented that opportunity, and it turned out to be great for me and my family to be able to be here and be the head coach now.
From the pure academic side, there's a really strong biological sciences program at Brown University, and I was interested in sciences, kind of a math and science guy my whole life. It was a university that focused on the undergraduate experience, and I don't think you really realize how unique that is until you really get through your time there. And from the soccer program perspective, I mean, it had such a rich name. I was looking at the program in 2010, because I started there in the season of 2011. The team, I believe, had just come off of another Ivy League berth, having lost 2-0 to Cal in the fall of 2010. And it's really been a strong program who had made the tournament in the past, I think, 2 or 3 years before that.
The reason I picked Brown is because of its high degree of academic difficulty, as well as the soccer program. Plus, it's a added benefit that it's only an hour from home, so that's really nice that I can go home and visit my family on weekends or whenever I want.
Why I picked Brown originally, and back when I was being recruited, I remember one of the biggest things that I was thinking about just was how can I get the highest level of academics and the highest level of soccer that I could find. So I was looking at a lot of different schools in the NESCAC, a couple different Ivy Leagues, and ultimately Brown, when they reached out to me. I had a really quality game in one of my club games that they saw me play, and they'd been following me. I'd been to a couple camps already at Brown, so I had already had some interest. My uncle went to Brown, so I had some connection there. I was familiar with how he liked it. And then once I visited the campus, it was really just an amazing place that I saw. I went on a beautiful day. It was sunny. I had a great tour, and it was close to home. I'm from Massachusetts. This was in Rhode Island, so I'm nice and close for my family to come see my games.
I think Brown more broadly, the reason I picked it was, I think everyone has a niche at Brown. There's not one type of student that is particularly successful or that defines the school. There's a lot of different ways to be successful at Brown and to have a great experience there. And so that's the reason I think more broadly I loved the school and loved the idea of it and continue to love it. And with regards to Brown men's soccer, I think it was a bit of the toughness attitude that is associated with the program and always has been. That was particularly appealing to me and something that I hope continues going forward.
For me, Brown and why I chose Brown was all about the people. I think my 17-year-old self would have said that I chose Brown because of the mix between education and the soccer program. But looking back, I got a certain vibe on the Brown campus that I didn't get when I was visiting other schools. And knowing what I know now, I think that was really all about the people that I was surrounded by.
I chose Brown for a bunch of reasons. I think the combination of getting an amazing education with an amazing soccer team and kind of just the vibe on campus was really cool. Bunch of different people from a bunch of different places. Specifically within the soccer program, it's really a unique set of guys because everyone pushes each other on and off the field, and I think really becomes a brotherhood and a family.
That you bond with throughout Brown. It's just a level of connection and friendship that I think carries a long way.
It's a mix of academics and soccer. When I was looking at universities here from the UK, obviously the academic credentials of Brown are world renowned. How strong of an undergraduate program it has. I think the thing that actually pushed it over the edge was when I visited and did a recruiting weekend out there and meeting the guys on the team. It became very obvious how serious they took soccer, how committed they were to the game, and how they had sort of just, from different areas of life, different backgrounds, but yet had this common sort of love of soccer.
In terms of soccer, I chose Brown because it was the school that I felt wanted me the most. In terms of the school itself, I always loved the environment, the atmosphere that Brown provides. I fell in love with the campus, and in general, it's just a very happy place.
Coach Mike Noonan sold me on a few things. One was he allowed anybody to play, no matter the age or year that you were on the team. If you earned the spot, you deserved the spot, then he would play you. And two, he had a long and good history of sending guys to Major League Soccer and giving guys chances, and so both those things appealed to me. The other main reason was the team, the players on the team, both the players that I met when I went on my official visit, as well as the current teamates.
It had that great combination of emphasis on the student and the athlete. Obviously, Brown is unique with the new curriculum. I love the location. I grew up in the Boston area, so Providence was close enough to home, but far enough away. It had access to a city or cities if you ever want to get to Boston or New York, but I love the Brown campus. I love architecture. I always loved soccer, but I found that it's become a lifelong interest and passion for me, and I think that was instilled in large part by my experience at Brown.
My best on-field memory was definitely against University of Rhode Island last year. It was a really defensive battle for 90 minutes. We had a counterattack and we scored one. The atmosphere was really against us, so it was awesome.
One minute.
So I think the memories I have of games are related to beating Harvard 6-1 in 1965 on Muddy and West Field, Stephenson Field. and we had some very close battles with Yale as well.
My best on-field memory was our game versus Harvard. We got a big overtime 1-0 victory. I made a big save and got Ivy League Rookie of the Week that week.
My freshman year was Daniel Taylor's winning goal against Penn in overtime, which was awesome. And then my sophomore year it was Ben Mowry's game-winning goal in like the 88th minute against Columbia, pouring rain. I'll never forget Jay Reed throwing it on the big screen after the fact, and just all the boys going crazy for that one. And my junior year it was Jack Hagstrom's game-winning goal against PC. That was a ton of fun, and they were kind of coming off, I think, a Final Four appearance at that point. So big result for us, and a really fun game to be a part of. And then my senior year was the comeback against Holy Cross.
We had this game against Holy Cross, and we were down 2-0, came back in the second half, scored 2 goals. I ended up getting the game winner, so it was a really exciting game for me. And it was like kind of a pretty far out shot, but it was kind of a looping shot, but it went top right corner. Everyone jumped on the field, everyone was getting excited, so that was a really exciting, just...
Anytime we're playing a rival is a big memory. So this past year, we beat all 3 teams in Rhode Island, Bryant, Providence, and URI. URI in OT, Providence College, it was great because last year they beat us in OT off the penalty kick, so it was great to get a win against them. They're always scrappy. And then Bryant.
Beating Bryan, Providence, and URI this year, the 3 rivals, in-state rivals, was a pretty good accomplishment.
For the Bears, it's out to that far side. Welp in front, off the goal line, headed through, and scored! Joseph Lee!
There's a lot of great on-field memories, and it's funny because they keep happening all the time, and it's not necessarily it's like some massive game, but it's just great memories from exciting moments when you see the players do everything they can and win it. And some of them are from wins, and some of them that are great. We went to St. John's and drew with them at St. John's, and we were late getting to the field, and we were running out of the field. Had a very limited warm-up and played a really good St. John's team and got a draw. Beating Indiana here was awesome. Playing Washington at Washington and being able to overcome 30-something flip throws and beat them 4-3 was really exciting too. Going to Tulsa and beating Tulsa at their field right after they had beat #1 Stanford in the country the week before was great. There's been some really exciting moments when we beat some of our local teams and been able to get results when it was tight. Just recently beating Providence and beating Bryant even in a tight game. It feels good. I think it's always happening, and it's one of the things that makes you continue as a coach is to see a team do everything they can and to get rewarded for doing everything they can. That's really exciting.
Great memories of all 4 years. Freshman year I played on the freshman team. But really, I think probably what I remember most is senior year, because actually the team did very well, and for me that was really rewarding because it's been a culmination of a couple 3 years of the team doing well but not great, but by senior year we kind of pulled it together. So senior year, I remember we were playing Yale and New Haven, and at some point during the game Hunter went down and he either got a cut lip, I think it was probably a cut lip or something on his face, and I remember him going over to the sideline, and Joe Castro was our trainer then, and Joe stitched him up on the sideline, maybe at the half or before we went into overtime, and Hunter came back into the game, and we almost won in regulation on a last-second free kick, but we went to overtime, and we ended up winning that game.
I was able to start an NCAA tournament game at #2 seeded Maryland, playing in their packed stadium. Unfortunately, they scored with the kind of clock winding down in the second half, but that was just a phenomenal experience for me as a player. And also, beating Dartmouth my senior year, and the team really played a amazing game against a solid Dartmouth team, and beating them for the first time was a really good feeling.
Probably a few of them. One was The two games that we won my sophomore and junior year to go to the Sweet 16, one was in PKs against UConn. The next one was against St. John's at St. John's. Those were two pretty fond memories. Senior night was also a pretty memorable night for me. And then, I mean, countless just times in the locker room with the boys.
Biggest rival for me, I would say PC.
Our biggest rival is by far Dartmouth.
And I feel like our biggest rival is Dartmouth. It's a big end of the season game. That's always a tough opponent to face.
Definitely Dartmouth. They're kind of the team to beat in the Ivy League every year, and I think this next year we'll have the talent to really challenge them and then hopefully win a ring at the end of the fall.
Even in the more successful years when we went 13-3, we still found a way to struggle against Dartmouth.
So in terms of biggest rival, I think it was Dartmouth for us. They were extremely successful during my 4 years at Brown, and we always played our hardest against them because we wanted to beat the champs.
Biggest rival, I would say, is probably Dartmouth. Harvard was pretty good at the time too, but Dartmouth is always our biggest rival, always our last game, so that was fun.
There were a couple teams who were very good, ranked nationally, who we played, and actually played them pretty competitively. I'm not sure they'd be considered a typical rival, but one of those teams was UConn. I think that was Joe Maroney was coaching the team back then, and UConn was top 5 in the country probably. So that was really playing at a very different and high level when we go up against them. But I think really what I remember about them, particularly when we went down to Storrs to play them at UConn, is the crowd support. Columbia was also very good while I was there.
I would say it's Columbia. We haven't had a lot of luck against them, but every game is very competitive and we really don't like them over there. So
probably, I would say Columbia. We had a lot of interesting games against them where we were always pretty neck and neck, and it was never quite sure who was going to win.
I think our biggest rival while we were there was Princeton. My best on-field memory is actually beating Princeton in OT my junior year. I think we beat them in double OT. And for anyone who has played soccer at Brown and won an OT game, the feeling you get rushing the field and having the fans rush the field as well. I think we were playing in front of a couple thousand that night. It's a pretty special feeling.
Biggest rival, team rival, definitely Dartmouth. Has to be green. Kind of going up to Hanover, freezing every year, and they were always really good competitors and a damn good team. So,
being part of a team involves dealing with adversity. Do you recall a specific moment during your career in which you or the team had to overcome an issue? I mean, I think my career with the team created some issues kind of throughout it. I had a medical condition that made passing the 3-mile more difficult. This is despite me getting some good playing time, kind of my freshman year, my sophomore year. I mean, all 4 years, really. But it was always an issue. I think every preseason for me, it was like, can I run this test? Can I pass this test? The first year I failed at like 18-11, passed out, threw up, was sent to the hospital. They kind of brought me back with an IV of just saline. And then I was kind of exempt that year, but sophomore year I wanted to try again. And then I did worse, got like 18-20 or something, and was sent to like health services, like down by the main green. They didn't have to put an IV, but I think they were watching me, giving me fluids, checking some labs. And so once again, it was like I had played a lot my freshman year, and then I failed again, and then the question was why is he failing? And so I played a lot again my sophomore year, but that created some tension. That created a lot of tension because the test is such a testament to the hard work of the team, that to not be able to pass it really was a frustrating experience for me. In my sophomore year, there were more issues where I got hurt, and by that time, it was more obvious that there's some medical condition that put me at risk. But my senior year, I actually wrote about this in my personal statement, that at that point, I was, it was my last year. I was determined that like I could pass this test. There's no reason why I can't figure this out. But coach had kind of been denied by the medical trainer at the time from letting me run the test with the team. I guess they're liable to some extent. But I mean, that's not what the team is about, right? It's about putting in your work and putting in hard work. And so, with the support of the guys, Ben, who was in my class, and Jack Gorham was there to support me too, and some of the other guys who were in Providence that summer. I ran it at the track like a week before, just with the group of guys, and the whole like running, pushing from behind, dying, and I ran like with a 17:40 something. So it was obviously a good moment for me.
Final fitness test, we have the coveted 3 mile, where we have to run 3 miles in under 18 minutes.
So over the summer you train for the 3 mile pretty much every day. Basically your entire summer you're thinking about the 3 mile.
Come on, Pops, you can make it under 17 maybe.
Good job, Bob. Good job,
There we go. 3 mile run, that's a test. I think it's come to be a symbol for Brown men's soccer and who we are. It's not only a physical test, it's a mental test, it's a test of endurance and commitment, and it's the very first thing we do in preseason.
Different guy with me on every rap.
It's something that
every
you gotta do
lap,
whenever you
screaming in my ear, telling me how to go, and just I had to go, and this was it. I was not doing this again. And honestly, I think the second to last lap I didn't touch the ground because Taylor Gorman was holding me off the ground, and the last lap I just said, you know what, I'm doing it. And there was guys running in front of me, and I told them all to get out of the way and just sprinted as fast as I could. And it could not have been a better feeling that morning.
And I get taken out, and I sprained my ankle pretty badly, and I can't run or do anything for at least 3 weeks. I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna try and run like a mile or two, see how I'm feeling. But I keep going, 1.5 miles. I'm right there. I'm like right around 9 minutes, and I'm hurting, but I gotta keep going. If I get it done, I'm not gonna have to do it again. I might as well keep going. So I'm limping more, I'm struggling. I got a bunch of people helping me out, breaking one for me, pushing me, just keeping me going.
Last time, but one time.
8 seconds.
Let's go, Randy. Come on, Randy. Come on, you're up. Start now, baby. 17:40. Let's go, Randy. Come on, Randy.
Watch out, guys.
Randy.
Come on, Randy.
Rosa. Yeah, Randy. You got it.
One of the hardest things I've ever done, but I made it.
Like just being able to wake up every other day or every day in the summer, training to be able to pass that 3 mile at the beginning of summer, just so you can play soccer. I mean, and then waking up that morning at 6 a.m., really scared. And doing that for 4 years, you get accustomed to having to work towards a goal over a long period of time.
Specific instance when I had to overcome adversity was when I injured my knee. So I was out for a couple of games, and it's always difficult at the goalkeeper position because someone else has to fill in for you. And it's tough getting back that confidence to regain the starting position after an injury.
There's always adversity when you're down in a game, or when you go through a stretch of a few games where you just keep losing. I remember that in my senior year, we started off really strong. We started off 3-0, and then we just lost 3 games right off the bat, back to 3-3. And I think after that third game, it was a matter of kind of taking a step back and thinking, having like a team. We had some team meetings, talk about how we were going to progress as a team. And I remember we were sitting in my apartment, and we were just talking about how do we want this season to look? Are we gonna bounce back from these losses, or are we just gonna kind of continue this trend? And how much can we motivate ourselves to really just push through and keep a positive mentality and get that playing style back? And I think with being an athlete, you really learn to have that perseverance. And I know that all the guys on the team had it at the time, and it's really just kind of unearthing it from each other. And when you have these moments where you're down, just making sure that everyone's on the same page about what the team goals are and how you're going to bounce back.
I think you deal a lot with adversity when anyone leaves the team. It's always tough when someone leaves and kind of have to replace them both on the field and off of it. I think in the locker room, people have really important personalities that you have to account for when they leave or if they leave, and so dealing with that was always difficult. But I think it also brings the guys that are still around closer together, and because you do have that bond and you do go through this experience together, and so that's kind of how we dealt with it, and even though it was always very difficult.
When I hurt my hip, so I tore my labrum, required kind of off-season surgery. Personally, that was kind of the biggest injury I'd ever dealt with, and took up 6 months to really come back, and then had a battle before my senior year. So personally, probably that was the biggest adversity. I think as a team, when I came in and my class came in, and those above us, we had a super, super strong senior leadership class, and it was just up to us to kind of carry on their legacy and keep a lot of the traditions the same. And so I think that was probably kind of some adversity we battled with in the beginning, is figuring out how to move forward. But I think luckily the next group of seniors stood up and were great leaders and just kind of set the way for everyone else.
I'd say they kind of went in the same time. As my junior year, I was dealing with an injury, and I was out for a few weeks, which sucked. And at the same time, as a team, we just couldn't find our form. We lost our first Ivy League game against Columbia, and so the seniors were pretty hurt. The juniors, we were all pretty upset. We thought it would be a long haul to get back to being competitive for the Ivy League and making a bid for the NCAA tournament. At the end of the day, it was just team coming together, putting aside all the differences, all the random shit that's going on outside of soccer, and just coming together and realizing that you only have a certain amount of time left with this select group of guys, and so I'm doing whatever it takes for the squad. And so both individually and collectively, I thought it was a really powerful moment for us to just put aside all the negative stuff that was going on at the time, just unlucky bounces, things off the field, and we came together, and it was a really, really successful year. And it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for our captains, coaching staff, and everybody on the team just buying in.
All right, so the culture of Brown men's soccer is one of a kind, I'd say. We all love playing, we love the game, and we really love each other. That's what it comes down to. No matter what we're doing, whether it's practice, during, before, after the game, we're always having a good time. There's nothing better than being in college. It's the time of your life, and I think it's just a great experience having a great group of guys that are all, interested in the same thing, just doing what we love together.
Last year and the year before, we started strong, 3-0, 4-0, and then we would end up dropping 3 or 4 games directly after that, and it would kind of look like team morale was at an all-time low. But usually we kind of bond together and realize that the season's not over, it's only a third of the way done, and we kind of become more of a cohesive group and end up kind of persevering through that, and we always finish the season out strong.
So when I think of adversity, I think of injuries. So my sophomore year, I broke my foot towards the end of the year. Had to come back from that, and then the next season, I was riddled with injuries, but somehow always managed to get in the game. So I think that's taught me a lot, both physically and mentally.
So I did end up injuring my knee. I had a couple of surgeries that fall going into the winter. Tried to come back spring of my sophomore year playing lacrosse, but went up to BU this time. Was playing on the bad, nasty AstroTurf at BU and hurt my knee again. So I ended up getting this bulky knee brace back then called a Lenox Hill knee brace. So I wore that. Came back in the fall of my junior year. I think I was on JV because I just wasn't playing that well with this brace, and I got really frustrated. So I decided to give up the brace. I thought my leg was in good enough shape or strong enough at that point. So I gave up the brace and I started playing better, went back to varsity, and then finished up on my senior year, started playing for varsity. So yeah, that I guess I'm proud of that. A lot of people come back from injuries, so they know all the hard work and dedication that it takes. Knock on wood, I didn't really injure or re-injure my leg. Although I did end up having ACL surgery on that same knee about 30 years later. But that certainly was the biggest personal adversity, and I'm proud of that. And I'm just glad. I love soccer so much and want to play, so I was willing to kind of take that calculated risk to come back and play.
You know, a few years back, we went to Columbia and got beat in double overtime, and the players were feeling like we had no chance for a really good season, and we were able to use that as a catalyst to spring forward and get some results and end up having a really good year from out of that game, which was extremely difficult. Lots of players, emotional wrecks in the locker room, and the guys able to come back and do that. I think, we learned a lot from games where there wasn't a game afterwards. Losing in the Sweet 16 at Cal, after that game, the feeling that we had as a team, the feeling I had for the players, feeling sorry for them that the season was over, but also immense pride for them of what they had done, what they had accomplished to go to Cal and go down a man and just really play well. Even though we lost, it was a great performance by the guys. And the same as here when we got beat in the Sweet 16 by St. Mary's. It's a difficult game, but to see how the players handled themselves and behaved, and I think there's definitely times when you get a loss and you learn more about yourself as a person than winning a game. So every year here at Brown there's going to be adversity, and you've got to deal with it and you've got to overcome it, because that's what Brown men's soccer does.
Off-field memories, I would say the ones that will stick with me the most was the preseason traditions that we've had here at BMS. And those include the skits that are very famous, the bonfire, and recently we've been doing the barbecue at the Lynn's house, which is near here. And those are memories of just times where you get to bond with your teammates, and really it's a time where the group comes together and prepares for a season, prepares for all the battles that are to come.
I think, in general, I think it's the time period that we're at preseason when no one else is really around campus is my favorite time of the year when I was in college. Whether it's team bowling or doing other activities, we're just all there together and we're so focused on the same goal.
Say any bus ride is fun, especially the last away trip with the freshmen singing. That's always a great time. And then some of the highlights, like going to the beach, going to Austin's house in North Kingstown, beach in California is always fun.
Where all the classes group together and do some skits and some roasts for everyone.
Being able to go to Spain and meet the U.S. ambassador to Spain in Madrid was incredible. To be able to travel to Argentina, travel to Spain, have those international trips. Going to Florida and having a real southern tailgate with a giant RV that was painted in LSU colors, that was an amazing experience, and another one that I didn't expect to have in my life. And having the guys sing on the bus has been really awesome to see. A variety of performances, some really good and some not so good over the course of the years, and all the jokes and all the time spent together getting to know each other as people has been it's been a real blessing. It's been a real joy to be part of.
And I think the camaraderie that we developed on the field and off amongst our teammates, the traveling together, a very vivid memory is on Thanksgiving of 1965. We all were in Providence, along with the coaching staff, with Cliff, and practiced Thursday morning, bright, clear, sunny day, and then had dinner together at a restaurant in Providence, the entire team, because we were preparing for the match on the following Saturday at the Naval Academy against Navy, and that was the second round of the NCAAs. And my memories off the field were preseason, particularly the two-a-days on the field, complemented by the Newport Creamery at night, which sustained us with awfuls.
It's not really an off-field memory, it's kind of an on-field memory, but of all the Brown gear that I chose to wear, I have some, but this hat was probably the first Brown gear that I ever got. I actually got it so before I started, I went to Brown summer camp. I was already committed at that point, so it was like the summer before I started. It was a team of me, Ben Mowry, who's also in my class, Daniel Taylor, who's also committed in my class, Thomas Arms, who was not there unfortunately, and then Mitch Cupstis was the fourth from my class who was there, along with I think Jordan Mandelbaum was there at the time. And also on the team who wasn't a commit at the time was Tim Whalen and I think Michelle Committis, who played a year below me but weren't commits. And that team was so strong. We won every single game and actually didn't get scored on. And then the winning team got these little hats. So I went to Mitch Cupstis, the guy I just mentioned, in my class, his wedding, to his longtime girlfriend, who was as much a part of the team as any because she was there all 4 years. And like over 20 BMS guys came through from people in my class who were in a best man trio, to 7 people in the class below me, to 4 people in the class below that, and then even a couple people who were freshmen my senior year were invited and able to make it out. And so that's just shows you the connection of the team, that even 4 years after graduating across 4 classes, that there's still such a strong bond amongst the boys.
Well, I think being an athlete is unique because you come in as a freshman where normally you wouldn't know anybody, but when you're coming in on the Brown soccer team, you already have 28 really close friends.
I think it's more the connections you make with your friends, and I think BMS plays a huge role in that and makes everyone so close together. Coming into the school, before the school even started, I already had 26, 27 really good friends right away. And I think, yeah, those are the things that you hold on to the most, is those friendships.
Definitely just hanging out with the guys, it was really nice having a large house this past season where we have 15 to 18 soccer guys all living in 3 apartments that are in extremely close proximity, and it just allowed us to really get closer, and on weekends, have parties, bond, and kind of make the memories that are what I'm going to be looking back on after I graduate.
Some great off-field memories that I always remember were when we would do our preseason camps, get-togethers before the season started. So the preseason, we would have we went to Camp Avoda, we went to a couple different camps, but really just the idea of getting onto campus before the preseason starts with the guys, doing the training together, doing the runs together, just introducing the freshmen, getting them kind of acclimated to how the team vibe is.
I'll just say that after we beat Princeton in OT, which I just referred to, we had a pretty epic party, kind of kicked off the legend of the Rack City backyard. But outside of partying, living in Providence in the summer with all the guys in my class was pretty special as well.
Any memory I have at Rack City was pretty awesome. That was a spot that we lived at my junior and senior year. It was a soccer house, and so that was pretty incredible. Other than that, I don't know if I could say them on this, so I'd just say the memories and times I had with the Bandits, with everybody else on the BMS squad. Yeah, Rack City was dope. It was awesome.
Practice was spent in storytelling, and a lot of it revolved around prior players. So invariably every day, if not every day, at least every week, we'd hear about Freddie Pereira and the stories of him not being able to play varsity then because the Ivy League didn't allow it, and Freddie and the freshman team just absolutely running rampant over the varsity, and Schnettgocki and Rabalski, and then Jesse Jupiter. And it always seemed like whenever Cliff would mention Jesse Jupiter's name, Cliff would go, "Yeah, Jesse Jupiter, and Jesse's a dentist right now." So I think Cliff was just as proud of the players for what they did professionally in terms of soccer, but also what they did in terms of professionally as business.
Everything from, I think bus rides were probably some of the worst and best experiences for the same reason of being cooped up in a moving tin can with 25 other guys. But, you know, singing funny stories, doing the songs, bus rides were kind of where you got to learn a lot about everyone. The international trip was probably another massive off the field highlight. You know, being able to go to Argentina with the guys, especially my senior year, was something I will never forget. And we were able to just have like such a good time.
Practices, games, or particularly some of the long bus rides to and from games.
You know, Brown is a lot of fun. I think you come across some really special people there. Always enjoyable to go out and you know, not just spend time in the classroom with some other very talented and gifted individuals, but also to meet them in a social setting. You know, on the team we had very good sort of team camaraderie. We enjoyed ourselves. You know, I think there were some good spring weekends in there. We had 1 or 2 FIFA games, a few FIFA tournaments. You went to a few classes as well that were always good. You know, I remember Dave Binder was always enjoyable. We made a few trips to Cranston to go bowling or play some putt-putt. It was a very enjoyable time. We just about behaved ourselves, as I'm sure Coach Laughlin will let you know. We got up to a little bit of mischief, a little bit of debauchery now and again, but generally we were well behaved.
After practice, we'd do miles for time, and we'd get there, and there were a couple goalies on the team who didn't want to be embarrassed, so they invented something called the dense pack formation, which basically involved everyone kind of looking like they were running hard, but not really going that fast, but at least we all finished in the same time, except maybe my sophomore or junior year, I forget how many years, but Harold Mix from Sweden was on the team, and he was in phenomenal shape, so he was lapping us 2 or 3 times during the course of the mile, while the rest of us did the dense pack. I think one of the goalies who came up with that idea was Greg Mitko. So the other thing I remember about Greg off the field is going to see him perform at the Fonts House Underground. At least I think that's what it is or was called. And he did this one song called Mighty Falcon. And I'm guessing he made it up, or if it's a real song, I'd be surprised. But Greg would go perform there, so the soccer team would go support him. Cliff was known for Cliffisms, which I really can't describe it other than it's a lot like Yogi Berra. So I'll just give you a few, and hopefully the other people will fill you in, but let me see. So in terms of those timed miles that we did after practice, so Cliff would kind of keep track, and it seemed like every time, every day, or every week, it was the same 4 or 5 players. So Cliff kind of caught on eventually to the whole thing about the dense pack. So at one point he said, "Guys, we can't have this. We got 5 people finishing in the top 5. I want more people finishing in the top 5. I want all of you to finish in the top 5." So that was one example of a Cliffism. Another time was when we were practicing penalty kicks, and I was not practicing because I was a fullback, but it seemed like some of the strikers and midfielders were practicing penalty kicks, and I think there's one guy, Jeff Lombardo, who's captain my senior year, and Jeff would make one, and then he'd miss one, and then he'd make one, and Cliff kind of got a little exasperated, and he said, "Lombardo, you got to be consistent all the time." So that was another good Cliffism, and finally, there was a good one at practice one day when I think we were dividing up between strikers, midfielders, and defenders, something like that, and Cliff said, "Okay, half of you go with Dom, half of you go with Sammy, and the rest of you come with me."
And then how did being a part of the team shape your college experience and prepare you for life after Brown? I mean, you know, being part of the college, it's hard to tell people, but you know, being part of the team at Brown, I'm not gonna say it was my college experience because obviously there's a lot more I did, but it was such a strong portion of it. I think you plan out your summers around what other life activity can you do and how can you match that with your soccer goals. So find a team, find a PDL team, and also like whatever, study for the MCAT or something, or find a PDL team and then do research yeah, I mean, from the friends that you make to the classes that you take, it's all wrapped up, and not in a bad way, over encompassing, but it just adds richness to all those experiences when you are taking classes with some really brilliant people and then going at 3 p.m. to go play soccer with some of your 20 best friends, and hopefully not do pride runs, because those are miserable. But it's the highs and lows. And I think you see that across all 4 classes. You really enjoy parts of college, and then you struggle in parts of college, and all throughout it, the team is there, and the soccer experience, you see this gradual growth and development. It's hard to really put into words what Brown would have been like just without soccer, because it made me who I am today. And
shaped me. I think coming in, it was really important having a base of brothers that right off the bat that you're hanging with and everything. You just get to spend time with them before everyone else comes to school. And then also the timing, having to put in all the effort, away games, everything like that. I think that really helps you in the working world as well, just knowing that you have to spend a lot of time on one thing, a lot of time on another thing, but you always have to get both done in an efficient manner and be the best that you can always be.
Time management skills are something that you do acquire by playing sports, and the discipline that instills in you. And when I was a freshman, the NCAA rules at the time prohibited freshmen from playing varsity sports, so we had separate teams, separate schedule, and I was able to play soccer, basketball, and baseball that year, and obviously continued with the soccer all the way through.
I think there are a couple or 2 main aspects of being part of the team that really develops your professional skills. First being time management, having to wake up in the mornings, get to practice on time, manage school and academics is something difficult, and that's an important skill to know, as well as communication. I feel like if you want to be a part of an effective team, you have to be able to talk to people, you have to be able to express your feelings and be able to organize others to the best of their abilities.
Well, I think that playing on Brown soccer team, it's really kept me to a strict schedule, and it's helped me succeed in my classes by making sure that I'm up early, attending classes.
I would say one of the biggest things for me is being part of a team. It gives you a really large network of guys that you have things in common with, first of all. So as coming in as a freshman, it's really exciting because you have a group of friends that are already, you already are getting acclimated to, and then that helps you work your way into the semester when you're hanging out or doing things outside of work or school. I think it also gives you just a really, really great support network for when you're struggling, if at all, with academics. You just have people and resources to use that can support you in that. So I think the network is really important, and that helped throughout my 4 years of just having people that were great friends, that were great, to bounce ideas off of, to kind of just pick each other's brains on different things. And then after Brown, it's amazing. I think just my work ethic in my job.
Yeah, I actually think that Brown soccer had a big impact on my professional life. It taught me how to work hard, battle through adversity, work with other people and hold other people accountable in the workplace. And I obviously made some very good friends. So outside of just the professional world, Brown's given me a huge support system of classmates and teammates that I still am in touch with every day.
I mean, shaping the college experience is obvious, right? I think every part of our day was, at least in some way, tied back to the team. Whether we were all together, whether we were practicing, eating, preparing, whatever it might be, I think being part of the team kind of was a massive driving force throughout my 4 years. And I would argue that I learned more about being part of the team than I did in the classroom, and you know, some of the biggest lessons, experiences, and kind of leadership characteristics I take away from the team have helped me more than any specific class, kind of going forward in my career so far. You know, things like time management and you know, balancing going to class with playing, with going to film, with going out after class, and going out with the rest of the students. Like, I think the ability to manage time is something that you can't replicate, and you kind of just have to go through it to figure it out. It's hard to really say, but the team, I mean, we're in New York City, and there's, you know, 8 of us on a Wednesday night team playing pickup in the park, and you know, we're all getting together, we're all in group text. There's something about BMS that sticks with everyone.
I think one of the things that you get from Brown, especially the Brown men's soccer team, is, you know, we had a very tight team. You know, I think everybody was very committed to the soccer, to academics, and you know, when you live with people and you get up at, you know, 6 a.m. 3 days a week in the spring to go running down Blackstone, to be in the weight room, to be doing, you know, lots of silly things, you know, pushing yourself. I think you build a relationship where you create, you know, trust, and you rely on each other to challenge, to encourage each other, you know, not just in a physical, you know, on the field soccer perspective, but also academically, and you know, in your personal relationships as well. I think you know, you're sort of wanting the best for each other. You build relationships that, you know, is incredibly unique, that you don't necessarily have the opportunity to build at any other point in your life, because you just spend so much time together, whether it be playing soccer, going to class, you know, socializing on an evening. So you really build, you know, strong bonds where you want the best for each other, not just at Brown, but after Brown as well. So, you know, I have stayed in contact with all my roommates. We have regular texts. We actually just did a weekend in Vegas a couple of weeks ago for a couple of bachelor parties. You know, so I think the everlasting connections that you build at Brown are just unbelievable. And
well, while here at Brown, I feel being on this team, you know that no matter where you are, no matter what's going on with you, there's always going to be 20, 25 guys who can always count on. And that goes for academically, or also if you're struggling personally, whatever. So you know that wherever you are, there's people who are going to support you no matter what you're going through in life. And in terms of in the future, it's just all these connections you create and you grow. If they haven't already helped me already, I think they'll be very helpful in the future. Just knowing where guys are, what kind of personalities they have, the best attributes, and it's something that we can use each other, build with each other to grow and have success in the future.
How did being part of the team shape my college experience? Yeah, I think obviously there's some great lessons you can learn. You're working as a team. Obviously, soccer's not an individual sport, so you've got to work how to work through figure out how to work through problems. You've got to deal with different personalities in any given year. You've got seniors graduating, you've got younger recruits coming in, so there's a kind of ever-changing, dynamic group of people. And while you kind of share this common goal of playing for Brown, winning games, obviously people have different personalities. So I think there's direct corollaries with what you're going to face in life in general, obviously, when you're dealing with groups or other people, but certainly in work.
So mine was pretty direct comparison, I would say. For me, it was very different, actually, because, you know, coming from Brown, you had no scholarships, athletic scholarships, so everybody was essentially on the same playing field, same level. And so it was solely about, you know, the effort that you put in, you know, doing all the extra work, the motivation, motivating yourself, motivating your teammates. There was an incredible group of guys that were all bought in for each other. And I think that mindset helped me a lot making the jump to the next level. just that self-motivation, doing whatever it takes, doing all the little extra work, always trying to, work the hardest. Even when I knew I would never be the most gifted soccer player, I knew that I could, essentially work my ass off, and, hopefully that would help, take me to a point where, I could improve enough to be competitive at the next level. And so a lot of it, I guess you could say, directly related, from practices to games to all that, but I think it was the mentality that was the biggest factor that carried me to the next level. And it wouldn't have been possible without the Bandits, the rest of the Brown men's soccer squad, and the coaching staff.
First and foremost, being at Brown men's soccer taught me to give 100% to everything that I do. In work today, I typically like to think that I don't really half-ass anything. I go all in, and I do everything that I can to do the best job that I can. There's always this constant saying in the working world of 80-20 in order to have a work-life balance where you leave the office at a reasonable hour. And I think one of the things Brown soccer teaches you is you give your all to everything that you do. And I'm really appreciative of that. I think that that's a fantastic thing, and I think it makes you a lot better at the job that you do, regardless of what industry you're working in. And then the other thing is working in teams. I mean, working for a consulting firm, I am always operating in teams. It's kind of on a day-to-day basis, you're working with the same people until you're on a new project. And so learning how to maneuver those relationships and deal with adversity and deal with teammates that are overperforming or underperforming, it's all important, and are all skills that I learned at Brown Soccer. And so I'm extremely thankful for that as well.
In the chilly hours and minutes of uncertainty, I want to be in the warm heart of your love and mine, to feel you all around me and to take your hand along the sand but I may as well try and catch the wind. When sundown pales the sky, I want to hide a while behind your smile, and everywhere I'd look, your eyes would find. For me to love you now would be the sweetest thing. 'Twould make me sing, but I may